often overshadowed by presidential and gubernatorial contests, remain the most intimate expression of democracy. In the last local government elections held in Lagos in 2021, voter turnout hovered at just around a measly 11%, despite a pool of over 6.5 million eligible voters.
Well, Lagosians will vote across 57 local councils in the state on Saturday, but how many realize how crucial and important these local government elections are, and what do those in the race have to offer? If you recall, last week we did bring one who is gunning for the Surulere constituency, and today we have another one. Well, joining us for this discussion is Eti-Osa Local Government Chairmanship Aspirant of the Youth Party Nigeria. Mr Ayodele Adio joins us live in the studio. It's countdown to the all-important. By the way, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Great to have you.
I'm chill.
I like the fact that you're a youth. This is one of the things that has been preached about, that the youth should actually join
a youth of the youth party.
Sorry?
The youth of the youth
party.
An actual youth.
Yes. So what do you make of, first of all, how are you feeling? Let's start off with that.
Well,
countdown.
I feel good, yes.
Yeah.
Enthusiastic, confident. The support has been overwhelming. I've been received with, the warmest of embrace that you can imagine. And so I'm confident that, this Saturday will be a huge turning point for Eti-Osa local government, because it looks or it appears that people will be coming to cast their ballots on the size of my vision that has been, or that has captured their imaginations, and the fact that they see their struggles in the policies that I've carefully articulated over the campaign trail. So I'm extremely confident that we will pull up an upset on Saturday.
Okay. Eti-Osa local government, typically has been a one-party local government since the advent of uninterrupted democratic experience. That's 26 years now. And Eti-Osa, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the richest local governments in Nigeria, if not the richest. It's very cosmopolitan too, but there was a major upset in the last elections with the federal representative going to the Labour Party candidate. How do you fancy your chances going against the APC juggernaut in their traditional, base at Lagos? And are you confident that you might cause an upset, looking at the dynamics and the fact that Labour Party could cause an upset in the last elections in Eti-Osa?
Well, the APC is not such a juggernaut in Eti-Osa local government. In fact, they are these giants standing on spaghetti legs when it comes to Eti-Osa local government. And the reason is simple. When you drive past the local governments, the roads are unmotorable. Every time it rains, it floods. Local governments are incapable of collecting waste. There's a huge inequality in Eti-Osa, where the rich keep getting rich and poverty is relocated or forcefully ejected from their communities, and they have to leave with piles of debt, and there's a prevalence of typhoid fever in many of these communities. Very little investment has gone into primary education and primary health care. And so you can see the reason why the party is hugely, resoundingly unpopular in Eti-Osa local government. So there are giants standing on spaghetti legs in that local government. And in my conversations, in my engagement, and during the campaigns, a lot of individuals, a lot of communities have completely lost faith with the ruling party. And not only have they expressed support for my candidacy, I think that what you're also going to see with these elections is that even people that were traditional supporters of these political parties are actually, going to turn their backs on the APC, largely. And it's because over time, and this is what I hear on the campaign trail, you only come to us when it's time for election. And when you come to us, you just give us a derica of rice and maybe a sachet, of oil and a few biscuits.
And some spaghetti from the spaghetti legs.
Perhaps wax. Perhaps some spaghetti, right?
Material.
And we don't see you for another 4 years. Our children don't get jobs. Insecurity continues to worsen. Eti-Osa in April, for instance, got 1.6 billion in revenue from the federal government. They don't see the reflection of those funds in their local government. Their children can't get quality education. Their market women are struggling to sell their produce in markets that are flooded, that lack public toilets. You know, there's absolutely no hygiene. So they are frustrated. And the fact that you're going to come once every 4 years and give them a simple derica of rice is becoming insulting to these people. And even more insulting for them is that the party is not even willing to engage them. You know, many of them don't even know who the candidate is. In fact, many of them even think the current incumbent is the one running for another term, not knowing he's a different candidate entirely. Because everywhere I go, they keep referring to the other guy, that, you know, that's the person I'm running against. Because, you know, the arrogance that you want to govern a people that you don't want to engage so that you will not be held to account, so you wouldn't make any promise, I think has frustrated a lot of people. And they want to turn their, or cast their ballots for a political party that they can hold to account, people who have made promises that they want to hold on to and say that you said you were going to deliver ABC, we are going to hold you to account to deliver these things when you eventually get into office. And so really and truly, they want to try a new voice and perhaps key into a bold vision. And that's the reality on ground.
All right. Last year, on the 11th of July 2024, the Supreme Court granted a judgment that gave local governments autonomy. Their finances will be paid directly to them.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say that this might be the most keenly contested local government election, not just in Lagos, but around the country. What are the challenges that you foresee? You've mentioned now that what you're hearing from the citizens is that they're tired, that the ruling party is not engaging them. They see them once every 4 years. But there is still a complaint about, you know, the cost of living, people being able to make ends meet. Do you think that people are angry enough to want something different? And do you worry that they are hungry enough to still compromise their values, as a number of them have done in previous years?
So I don't live on the sky, right? So I'm a realist and I'm pragmatic. And I know that, of course, certain people will sell their votes on election day. And that's the reality. That's the reality of our elections. And that's the consequence of pauperizing citizens over the years. But what I do know, and what I believe will turn this election on its head, is when middle-income people and young voters come out to vote on election day. And you raised an important point in the beginning of this conversation. And we must consistently ask people who live in these gated estates. We must ask young people who are frustrated by the lack of jobs and opportunities. Who do they want to control the 1.6 billion to 2.2 billion that accrues to their local government every month? There are local governments in Lagos, for instance, like Alimosho local government, that gets close to 3 billion a month. Who do you want to control those resources every month? Now, once you answer that question and you arrive at the point where you know that those resources should not be controlled by people who don't hold you in any regard or esteem to even campaign to you or to even make promises to you, then you will take that elections a lot more seriously and cast your lot with political parties that have presented a vision for that particular local government. So the autonomy that we keep talking about is not going to be gifted to anyone. It's going to be demanded. And that demand has to be placed by the people of those local governments, who will stand up and say that our local government must be autonomous. You're not going to impose candidates on our local government. We will participate in the process. We will screen candidates. We'll check their programs and their policies. Because these billions that are now coming to our local government must improve the living conditions of the people in this local government. And without the participation of citizens, residents, and businesses, we are not going to get that autonomy.
But this is what you're talking about is for like the elite, the ones who are educated. There's still a number of people, like you mentioned, you said earlier that
in your consultations,
right? That you're not living in the sky. You are aware that there are people that will still sell their votes. Local government, not just local government, elections in Nigeria have been run with money, whether they want to admit it or not. Money that is out there and the money behind the scenes. So how do you hope to combat with the people who are willing to do anything to win elections in terms of bringing out bags of money to be able to influence elections? Unfortunately, that's a reality that happens in a number of elections.
Well, that's the reality, but the truth also is the money actually doesn't even go around, right? And, you know, the monies that they spend, or that I know that they're already spending, for instance, is being spent within a small geographical, spread, if you'd like. The money doesn't still get to a majority of the people who have been left behind, who have been deprived, of social good, who have been, left in environments that has been completely broken down. The monies don't get to them. And I'm counting on these people to come out and make a resounding statement to reject, the incumbents that have left them in these conditions that, most sincerely, is a very parlor state, if you asked me. And to reject a system that continues to widen inequality. I tell you something very interesting. Today in Lagos, there's arguably more boys on the streets in Eti-Osa than in Mushin. And the reason you have this rise in, gangs, boys on the streets, drug addicts, and what have you, is largely because of the policy of gentrification, where wealth pours into low-income communities. We eject them out of where they grew up and where they live, replace them with fancy buildings. These people have nowhere else to go, so they're on the streets. Yeah. And so you now have hundreds and thousands of young people pouring around the streets in Eti-Osa. It's now breeding insecurity. People are afraid to do shopping or do business, once it's dark. And it's a perennial problem. So we have to fix the widening inequality by investing in those in low-income communities and those that are left behind. I care to tell anyone who cares to listen that I'm not running for the elite. I'm running for those in the low-income communities. I'm running for those that have been left behind, those that the local governments have forgotten and abandoned over the years. The guys in Ikoyi and in VGC will be fine. They already live in expensive flats. They already have solar-powered estates, service departments.
Not fine, no. It's touching everybody.
To the degree that
they can afford it.
I tell you really and truly, once you look down from some of these 500 million flats and see the conditions where people are living,
that's the gentrification you're talking about,
and the likes, you wouldn't believe you're in the same Lagos.
Eti-Osa.
Yeah, we have that as well in some of the high-rise buildings, just next compound.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So from your windows, you see
even some five-star hotels
separated by the walls, and then you see them living there. But just to quickly ask, prior to this and countdown to the elections, sharing of rice, bread, Olive highlighted that money is being used to win, the votes. Have you shared any of these things?
Oh, of course,
bread,
I did.
Did you share bread and rice?
No, I did rice.
Yeah,
I did a food drive on Saturday. I threw a party across all my wards. People came to eat nicely made jollof rice. They came to eat ram.
But many will say that jollof rice would expire after you win.
No, not after I win. So that was because of the Salah celebration. I wanted to celebrate with my people and things like that. So we had rice and ram meat and things like that. I also need to add that there are lots of widows, in the local government where I extend support to every now and then, right? Of course, I don't print my banners or posters of that. It's something I've always been doing for quite some time now. So, again, let me also, I said I was going to be pragmatic.
But
and
won't
honest.
Some might call it inducement.
No. So here's the thing. You can't even go to campaign in certain localities
without bringing something first.
Without paying the toll gate.
It's the reality.
So they are tolls. They are tolls. So you have to pay the toll fee for you to access certain communities, to have a conversation. That's the reality. Otherwise, you may not live, so...
But they said that you speak too much English, I saw this online. They said that this guy is too fine and fresh.
No, but here's the thing, right? And that's the beauty of my candidacy. Like Benga rightfully said, there's a huge diversity in Eti-Osa local government. I was at the Hausa community 2 days ago, and I told them clearly, right? I promised them that so in the Hausa community, we speak in their language. So we are well-rounded, in this community. We engage them. Igbo now. Igbo. Igbo too. So we are going to try speaking Igbo too, and we engage people in the local language that you understand. So, you know, we came into this prepared, right, to speak in the language that people understand, to touch the problems that affect them, and to also solve these problems with honesty and integrity. Because the truth is, you know, local governments have lacked accountability for so long a time. And if all we do, and I promise you this, if all we do is open the books and be accountable to the people and ensure that every naira that is spent in Eti-Osa is accounted for and is spent on the people and the progress of the people of Eti-Osa, would have transformed the local government.
Mr. Adio, let's do a bit of reality check. Olive said something quite instructive, that this might be one of the most keenly contested local government elections in recent history, and rightly so, because of the autonomy that has been granted to local government. Now, coming back to present-day Nigeria, Lagos, where we speak, and looking at the sort of pattern that has happened with local government elections in the last 12 months, it's almost been a clean sweep for the ruling party. It's almost like an exercise in futility if you don't belong to the ruling party, and it applies to, it's not just APC. In Abia State, for example, local Labour Party swept all the polls. But Lagos is different. It's a bit cosmopolitan. We pride ourselves as the center of excellence. Are you confident in the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission of being an unbiased umpire? Do you think the votes will count? And what has been your engagement with the stakeholders and Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission?
I've been in a running battle.
So far?
I've been in a running battle with the commission because from day one, they have violated the Electoral Act, they have violated the Constitution, they have breached several provisions. You see, I mean, it's so brazen and so audacious that they don't even hide the fact that they are working to a predetermined outcome. And it's really embarrassing for anyone that has followed, you know, many of these issues. And I've articulated...
what are some of the reasons why you've said this?
I mean, they're just numerous, right? I don't even know where to start from. But take, for instance, the election notification. The laws are clear that you can't announce elections less than 150 days to the expiration of the tenure of people in those in the current office. The LISEC announced 92 days. And mind you, let me remind you, that was the primary reason why the Rivers State local government elections was annulled and a rerun ordered, because they faltered in the due notice of elections. LISEC has repeated the same thing. So if we challenge that in court, there's a likelihood that a rerun will be ordered for this election. Another example is they released the polling guide for this election, you know, about 3 weeks to the election. Now, a polling guide, for those who don't know, shows where your polling units are located, right? How are you contesting elections, right? How do you announce guidelines for elections and people don't know where polling units exist? So you're now announcing polling units or giving polling guides in the middle of the game. And, you know, when that polling guide came, new polling units had been created. You know, some had been moved to certain other places. Some were completely unnamed. So there's a ward in Ikate, for instance. There are 10 polling units that are listed as Ikate land. There are about another 10, you know, combined that are called Itedo town. What does Ikate town mean? Where is it located? Right? So there are so many polling units that you cannot even identify. Right? And, you know, lastly, if you followed, I think I saw AAC on your platform where I was a few days ago. The state's chairman who was ventilating against, you know, the so-called validation process of LISEC. Please, the Constitution is clear. There are several judicial decisions that says clearly that electoral commissions have no business validating or disqualifying candidates in early election. I mean, it's completely clear. So why is the commission taking it upon itself to exercise what I call a dubious validation process, which, as I heard yesterday, because I saw a candidate from the YPP saying that some of them were disqualified because of that validation process. Wenga, we can't have a country where even retired judges do not have respect for the rule of law. In Atiku versus the federal government in 2007, the Supreme Court was clear that disqualification of candidates is a judicial matter and cannot be handled by the Electoral Commission. In SDP in 2019, in Kogi versus INEC, the judge also reiterated the position of that Supreme Court decision that, you know, the courts are the ones that can disqualify candidates. Mind you, the Constitution is clear on what qualifies a candidate to run for office. It gives just 4 provisions, and those provisions were replicated in the Lagos State local government laws. Of course, all of us know the 4 conditions: that you're a member of a political party, that you're sponsored by that political party, that you're of age, and that you have a senior secondary school leaving certificate, and even put the bar even lower, or its equivalent, which is, you know, you can just show you can speak English and do small math. That is the only requirement upon which anyone can contest elections in this country.
Disqualifying people.
Please ask me. So just ask me. And again, what hurts me, and I tell you most sincerely, is that it's headed by a judge. I mean, you know, how do you have a country where a judge is heading a commission, and then you are flagrantly disregarding several judicial, decisions, even those coming from the Supreme Court?
Doesn't this spell doom already?
It's a problem. I mean, it's a problem. Where do we now run to?
Have you made these issues known to last year?
We don't need to make. We are going to make it known to the courts, because clearly they know. Are they going to pretend that they don't know the state of the law? Clearly, they know the rule of law, and if they have gone ahead to do what they have done, clearly, you know, many political parties will seek redress in court.
Okay, as quickly as possible, I just wanted to highlight something. You talked about the polls and the issues with people not knowing their polls. For those who participated in the presidential and the gubernatorial elections, it's the same polls that, you know, they voted that they are voting in the local election.
That is the primary problem. Because, again, state electoral commissions do not have the powers to delineate wards. It is the exclusive purview of INEC. Because your PVC is tied to your polling unit and registration area. Now, what state electoral commissions do, and particularly LISEC, is that they now redistribute these polling units. So on election day, there's a high chance that if you go to the polling units where you voted for House of Assembly or governorship election, they will tell you your name is not there. You go and look for polling unit. And I'm not telling you hearsay, because in 2021, I managed the situation room of the youth party during the local government elections when Tari ran. People that wanted to vote in Lekki one, when they got there, their own polling unit, they said their name is not on the register, that it's somewhere in Muri Okola. They entered the vehicle to go to Muri Okola. They got to Muri Okola, they said their name is not there. So, you know,
it's a mess.
It's a complete mess.
People now check their polling units. How do they?
God bless you again for another point. Now, you know that before elections, it is standard that INEC will paste the names of eligible voters in their wards. So people go there and see the names pasted, and they know.
Yeah.
Do you understand? This does not happen. So people don't even know where their wards are. I can guarantee you. So people don't even know the polling units. They are setting polling, you know, where I campaign and where they have shown us love. They give us certain expo. This place, we have 6 polling units, but it's only 2 that they bring outside. 4 we keep inside.
Wow.
You know, so it's a complete mess.